There's something coming in here that's pushing you in a certain direction, and you are feeling like, but how? I don't know the how, or I don't have the evidence that it's going to work out. Or in fact, we're doing no makeup. Okay, we are doing no fucking makeup because I didn't feel like it. You definitely want to watch the beginning of this one before you go skipping ahead to your sign, because the next 2 weeks are going to be cray cray. And if you want to know how to get through it, watch the first part of this video. What is up, my sexy aliens, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to this Sagittarius new moon. I hope you guys are doing well. Your girl has been going through awakening after awakening after awakening. I don't know about you, but it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Okay, so anyway, welcome to the Sag new moon. There's so much I want to say that's just wanting to come out because so much has happened for me and so much is happening for everybody, and so there's a lot of videos coming basically. Okay, so just buckle up. We're going to focus on the Sag new moon in this video, but I'm going to start doing like podcast type videos about like my own life and my own journey and the crazy awakenings I've been going through lately. I'm also potentially going to be coming back with some tarot. Okay, your girl got some new decks and I'm feeling just really inspired and tapped in. There's just all kinds of new things coming. I'm also feeling like doing the Sag energies. Okay, we see it. Okay, Jupiter is in full effect because I have all the ideas. Sag is my 5th house. Just have so much wanting to come through, and yeah. But today we are going to focus on the Sagittarius new moon happening really, really early in the morning on December 1st, like pretty much right as December 1st happens, it is there, right? Also, if you would like to know what is coming for you next year astrologically, or you would just like to know what the hell's going on right now with you, make sure to check out my Black Friday sale. Everything that I have on my website for the most part is on sale right now, and it's marked down at very, very crazy prices. So if you would like to book a reading right now and get this crazy sale that is happening, make sure to check out the description below. It's really just this time of the year where it feels like a breath of fresh air, right? Like the Sag new moon is really so much about a new perspective coming in, a light coming in, optimism coming in. It really has that Jupiter energy to it. So as I always start with, what the fuck is a new moon? A new moon is when the sun and the moon align in the sky. They are in the same sign, they are coming together. Therefore, from our point of view on Earth, the moon goes dark in the sky, which basically symbolizes something being birthed, something being born. Seed being planted underneath the soil, a baby in the womb where it's very dark, right? There's this creation process happening, but we can't quite see what it looks like just yet. The new moon is happening in the sign of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. So think like wildfire spreading in every which direction, right? When things catch fire, it spreads quickly, right? That's the kind of Sagittarian energy. Like the spark is already there, the fire is already going, and it's ready to spread. It's ready to roam. It's ready to move, right? It's ready to get out there and light things up, right? And so this is why Sagittarius can deal a lot with like movement, right? Covering big spaces and being very big and vivacious and boisterous, right? Because it is a fire sign, right? Now on top of that, it is ruled by Jupiter, the biggest planet that we can see from Earth, right? The planet of wisdom, the planet of teaching, the planet of seeing things from the greater perspective from beyond, wanting to take things and progress them and grow them and make them bigger, to be able to see things from a bigger perspective. When it comes to Sagittarius, the sign of mutable fire, we have to be willing to experience new things. We have to be willing to go places that others may not have been, or to go the distance. We have to be willing to have new experiences and go different ways, right? And experience different paths and experience different perspectives and get out of our comfort zone, right? So that is really the energy of Sagittarius and, being a Jupiter ruled sign. Now, with that being said, a lot of the things that we could see for this new moon are just that. To me, I look at this new moon and I see like there's a lot of ideas, or there's a lot of new energy kind of coming in to be born, but it wants to go in different directions, right? Like at the beginning of this video, I'm like, I have this idea, I have this idea, I have this idea. And it's like, okay, where do we start? Where do we focus our energy? Because there's so much that may be coming on here. There's so many light bulbs that may be coming on. How do we experience our energy? And so what I find a lot of the times I have a lot of Sag people in my life, or people with a lot of Sag placements. One of my best friends is Sagittarius. What I find a lot is they will have all these hits of inspiration but they can struggle to actually follow through on it, right? And follow through on all of these different ideas, right? And so you have to kind of pick one path and look at it as a journey, right? Because even if you pick one path, it doesn't mean you're going to stay walking in the same direction on that path. You're going to veer off path. You're going to find a new path. You're going to come to a crossroads, right? And that's that mutable fire spreading out in every which way, going in every which direction. Because from a higher perspective, it's all a journey. So that intuitive insight, that fuel of passion that you're feeling to do something, whatever it is, like, you know, whatever you're feeling the most called to, do that. And it will lead you down many different avenues and paths and places, right? But all of them, from a bigger perspective, lead you to where you needed to be, right? It all has a greater purpose, like the hero's journey, right? You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, you're going to have crossroads, you're going to, you know, alter your path, you're going to have to adapt, then you're going to have to maybe change your mind, you know, but it's going to, as long as you believe in yourself, right? As long as you believe in yourself and you hold the spark, right? Then you will light the way. The fire will keep spreading, right? And so the other really big thing with Sag, and I think the other big lesson really coming in here with this new moon, is this belief within yourself, this belief in self, this belief in your passion, your fire, your life force energy, and where it's calling you and what it's calling you to do. And can you trust it? Can you see the bigger picture? Right? The Sag New Moon is asking us, is like, even if you can't see how it's all going to work out, right? We have Mercury retrograde in its detriment in Sagittarius. Mercury does not like to be in the sign of Sagittarius, yet it is, and it's retrograde, going a lot slower, going backwards, retracing its steps in this big idealistic sign of Sagittarius, where Mercury's like, but what are the details? Like, I mean, I get that you believe in this higher philosophical idea and like that it's all going to work out, but where's the evidence of that? Right? I was talking to someone today and they were struggling like with their job, and because like all the details are showing them that like they're at their job, things are behind in the data, and you know, there's delays and there's setbacks, but it's like, okay, but Mercury's in Sagittarius, so we're playing the Sagittarius game here. Even though evidence is not appearing in front of you as a certain thing, right? If a challenge comes up, which it will, in the following days of this new moon, or right around the new moon, because this new moon is squaring Saturn in Pisces, okay? You are going to be faced with all of these ideas, right? Or this spark, or this new beginning, or this new thing that you want to create, or this new path that you want to go down, or this new passion, or something is pushing you in a new direction, or down a new path, or, you know, lighting something up that was once, you know, that's been unlit for a little bit, right? However you want to put it, there's something coming in here that's pushing you in a certain direction, and you are feeling like, but how? I don't know the how, or I don't have the evidence that it's going to work out. Or in fact, right when I got the idea, or right when I started moving forward, now I've hit a roadblock. I'm like already at a roadblock. Maybe this isn't the path, right? And what we are being asked to do here is to slow down, right? Because any roadblock, any setback is a slowdown, right? So we're being asked to slow down, and we're being asked to hold the faith, to keep the belief in ourselves, the belief in our creative energy, the belief in our life force energy, the belief in our spirit, right? Fire equals spirit. Astrology, right? The element of spirit, the element of movement, the element of an inspiration. So if we can trust and believe in those things, then we have no issues. Because no matter what, if we believe in ourselves and we are faced with a challenge, or we are faced with a problem, or we are faced with an opposition, or some kind of conflict, or some kind of friction, if we believe in ourselves, then we believe that we'll get through it, right? The Sagittarius energy is the Sagittarius New Moon is trining Mars and Leo. If we believe in ourselves, if we believe in our journey and can view it all from a higher perspective, and it's like, okay, even if, right, I'm going through this challenge, or I have this week of conflict, what is this week of conflict, or this setback, or this little problem I'm dealing with in the grand scheme of my life? What does that look like in the grand scheme of my life? Am I going to remember this in 5 years from now? I'm not saying to completely ignore the small details, right? But if the small details are really, really, really what you're focused on. And if you're only focused on that, then you're only focused on a very narrow perspective. You're only in like a very narrow perspective, right? You have to think outside of that, and you have to trust that things are going to work out. You have to have some of that Sagittarius optimism, right? Tell yourself a different story. What story are you telling yourself about your life that's creating the perspective that you're having? I was just talking about this in my membership, Co-Creatrix. I leave like spiritual and life lessons in there, and different soul codes and all kinds of stuff related to my journey and my experience, several days a week. And I was just talking in there about how like the soul is like a diamond, where it has so many faces and so many different reflections, right? And we see things from so many different perspectives through our lives, right? Like we can't understand, like when we're children, we have this very singular perspective, this very narrow perspective, because our lives are just like, very, very simple, right? At the time, right? And we don't understand why, like, we can't stay out later after curfew. We don't understand, like, when we're teenagers, why we, have all these rules and boundaries and all that, right? But then when you become a parent, you see that from a whole new side. You see that from a whole new perspective, right? When you become an adult, you see that from a whole new perspective, right? And that's really what our souls are here to do on like a higher level, right? And so it's like when we can see things, when we can shift our perspective, expand our perspective, Jupiter, right? Like from an ant's perspective, they're going to be crawling on the table and come across this mic and be like, oh, that's impossible. That's a mountain. I can't climb that. Right? But if we're up in an airplane, right, we're not even going to be able to see this mic, right? Like it's going to be nothing, right? And so that's what a higher perspective does, right? It gives us a bird's eye view. It shows us that like, hey, this little thing I'm going through is not the end of the world. It's all going to work out. And we expend so much of our energy and so much of our, anger and fear and all of this stuff on like the small little things on a day-to-day basis, the slow driver in front of us, the, things didn't go right at work, the annoying coworker, like, all of this stuff. But it's like, what are you spending on a different story? Like, where are you forgetting that you're the writer of your own story, that you can choose a different story to tell yourself at any time, that you can choose a different story for your life at any freaking time, because you have the marker and the pen in your hand at all times, Sometimes you just go on like autopilot and the story just starts writing itself, and then you come back and you're like, oh shit, that's right, I have the pen here, like what am I doing? Forgot that like I can change this story in my direction and rewrite the story at any given moment. I was also talking about in my membership, because I've had a very, intense year. I was going through a dark night of the soul, like the whole first, over half of the year, where I was in seclusion, and I kind of like had to step back and like really go through a lot of internal shit, and I'm going to do like a whole podcast episode on that because it was a lot. But I realize now, coming out of that, because my perspective has changed so much and I've expanded my perspective, I can see now where I was in such a narrow, shitty perspective when I was going through it, and I'm not like mad at myself for it, and I don't regret it, because now I see the bigger picture. I realize why I had it, why I needed to go through that. And a lot of it was coming from this attachment to this story that I had, that like I was a failure, and like, I wasn't good enough, and, I was a fuck up, and I couldn't figure it out, and I wasn't ever going to figure it out. And like all of this bullshit that just like wasn't really actually true, but I was attached to that story at the time. So I was looking at everything through that perspective. Also that like the best was in the past, and, and I would just like grieve over the past and like miss the past like so much, and just like, wish that things could be how they were, and that I was how I was in the past, which is, I don't know if any of you have experienced that, but it is a really shitty feeling. Like it's one thing to like feel like, oh, like, yeah, maybe in the future, like I'll be who I want to be. But it's a whole nother thing to think like, oh, I've already been who I wanted to be, but it's in the past, right? Because then you're kind of faced with like, oh, well, what's next? What else can you do, right? And the future feels like just non-existent at that point, because you wish you were in the past, and it's just crazy, right? And so anyway, But we can allow these challenges, whether you're going through a dark night of the soul or a season lately where you're feeling very down, or you're going through a healing portal and it's a lot and it's heavy and there's a lot of different old things coming up, or whether it's just a small delay in your week, you know, like, or a small setback that you're going through, like, you can rewrite the story at any time. You just have to remember that you have the pen, right? You have the pen. You're in the driver's seat. Not this setback or challenge or conflict or whatever it is that you're, you know, focused on, right? It's like, okay, like if you were writing the story, if you were telling the story, right? It's like, okay, everything was fine. And then I had this hard day at work and everything sucked. And this person was mad and that person was mad. And I was going through this and I was going through that. And then I felt like a failure. And then I broke down in the bathroom. And then it's like, what next? If you were telling the story, what would you want to be next? What would you want the next part of this story to say? What would be the most shocking to not only you, but the viewer, you know, or the audience or the listener, right? It's like, and then I decided to turn it the fuck around. And I said, fuck it. And I went full steam ahead, grabbed responsibility for my life, decided to make all of the challenges into an incredible lesson, and modeled it and embodied it, and everybody learned from it, and we got through it, right? Like, so it's like, what do you want to tell next about this story that's unraveling? Because you get to choose, and it only feels like it's out of our control, or like it's out of our hands when we're forgetting who we are, right? Not to say that, you know, everything's on you or that you can control everything, but you can control how you react and how you respond and what you're going to do next, right? That is what you can control. So when we kind of focus back on that, right, and we release the things that we can't control, right? Because if there are certain things that you literally cannot control, and you know, like deep down, like, there's nothing that you could do to control this, right? Then that is what you release to the universe or God or Buddha or whatever you believe in, right? your tree in your backyard. I don't care. Whatever you believe in, that's where you release that to your higher power. It's like, okay, I'm going to release that to my spirit fam, my spirit people, you know, whatever, my higher self, and I'm going to do what I know I can do. Maybe it'll make a difference, maybe it won't, but what have you got to lose? I bet it's going to do something, you know? And so, like, that's the Sagittarius New Moon, right? It's like, I am ready to start this new beginning. I have things just like energy bursting out of me, or this inspiration, or I'm very passionate about whatever this is. And I'm ready to create this new thing, or I'm starting to see things from a more optimistic viewpoint, but there's this delay with the square to Saturn. There's this kind of like roadblock, right? These things that are out of my control, this unknown, this mystery, right? That's what makes it fun. Everything would be so freaking boring if it was just like good all the time. Like, would you want to watch a movie or read a book where everything was just like, everything was good all the time? We lived happily ever after all the time. Every day was the same as the last. There has to be duality. There has to be darkness for there to be experience. For us to fully experience things on a spectrum. For us to fully understand the different faces of our soul diamond, right? The different perspectives of ourselves, of our soul. To learn different lessons. To feel proud when we've accomplished something that was difficult. Right? Like, you don't go start working out because it's going to feel really freaking good right away. Like, people choose difficult things all the time because they want to test themselves, because they want to grow themselves, because they want to progress themselves, because they want to evolve. Right? So when you put that into a higher perspective, into a Jupiterian viewpoint, we are all here to just evolve. This is all one big experiment, right? And so when we can kind of remember that, we can get out of the kind of rat race, or like the very narrow, dialed in thinking about, like, you know, our day and this, that, and the other, and I wish this wasn't happening, and this person made me mad, and, you know, all of that. Not saying that those little things don't have lessons in them or aren't important at all, right? I'm not talking about like spiritual bypassing here, right? We can learn from everything. And that's another perspective. If you're having if you're having a really hard time kind of zooming out and looking at yourself from like a soul level, like looking at your journey and where you're at right now from a soul level, then can you at least look at, what are these things in my life happening right now teaching me? What's the lesson here? Right? Can I see anything good about it? Where's this stretching me? Where is this growing my character development? Where is this helping me learn more about myself? Where is this helping me learn more of the things I need to work on? Like, all challenges, all issues are really just character development. It's like, oh, okay, I can be a little bossy sometimes, or oh, okay, still got some insecurities here, you know, or oh, okay, like that kind of hurt my feelings. I guess I got some childhood shit I still got to sort out, you know, like fun. When we can like laugh about it. It's so Sag. Like, laugh about it. Like, tell the stories to your friends and make it funny. You know what I mean? Like, tell it back to yourself and make it funny. Like, find the comedy in it, right? Because when you can do that, you take the power away from it. Right? You really take the power away from it. Now, something else really interesting here is this new moon's happening very close to the asteroid Eros. And that's very, very interesting as well. So there could be a lot of like sexual, passionate energy coming up here, a lot of like intimacy vibes. Okay, so for those of you that do spiritual practices, rituals, like things like that, that's something good to keep in mind. Anyway, be open to signs of the universe, you guys. Like, be open to following your intuition, even if it doesn't make sense. Have faith that it's all going to come together, or in some different perspective, it's all going to make sense. It's all going to make so much sense from a higher perspective, because again, it's a whole journey. It's not just one linear path that you're taking. This is what Sagittarius teaches us. It's mutable fire. So it's different paths, right? But they all kind of end up being the same. They all can lead to similar places. They all teach us something about ourselves and show us a different reflection of who we are, and our souls teach us different lessons, right? That's why Sagittarius as a sign has a lot to do with teaching and philosophy and these higher concepts that we experience when we go throughout life and we have different experiences. Like, one thing to know something because there's evidence or data or you read it in a book somewhere. It's another thing to experience it. Right? And this duality between Sag and Gemini, because we have Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sag, in Gemini, and then Jupiter's ruling planet of Mercury in Sag, so they're mutually receptive, and they're also about to oppose. So we have these two dualities of like the lower mind that wants to focus on what's right in front of it, what's in its environment, immediate things, right? The more logical, rational mind, and Sagittarius, which is kind of the higher perspective of all of it, right? Like what it all leads to, what it all means. They can work together here if you allow them, if you balance them out, right? And if you find that you're too in the logical, too in the rational, too focused on all the little details, right? You need to broaden your horizons, broaden your perspective, get out, move, experience more things, embrace that fire energy and get out of the air energy, right? Ask the people that are bothering you what their perspective is, what's going on with them, so you can have a higher understanding. We become like, just as when we're children, right? Like we get so mad at our parents for like the rules and the things that we don't understand yet because we're children. We don't understand all these rules that we have yet, right? When we become adults or when we become parents, then we understand, because now we are on the other side of that perspective. Now we're in the perspective of the parent and not just the child, right? And so things start making sense, and we're almost able to kind of forgive our parents for some of the things that they wouldn't let us do, or some of the rules that they have, or we start seeing things from their side of the picture, right? Because now we're in that role, now we're in that perspective. And so it's easy to make sense of things, and it's easier to forgive things once we have that other perspective, once we broaden our perspective, right? And so putting ourselves in other people's shoes, you know, seeing things from a different perspective. And that's what this new moon in Sag is really bringing in, and what these next couple weeks are going to be about, leading to the Gemini full moon. Can you see things from a bigger perspective? This is going to be testing us in so many ways, not even just with this Sag new moon, but like we're going to have, and this is why I want to do like monthly horoscopes for each sign, because we have so much going on this month that is so much about, can you see things from a bigger perspective? Can you get out of your own drama for a second and look higher and think bigger, right? Like I've seen so many things over the last several weeks, not outside of me, but inside of me, like intuitive downloads, visions. Like I've been on plant medicine ceremonies. Like I've seen so many things that like completely shifted the game for me. Like seeing so many bigger, broader perspectives that I had no idea about, that made me really realize how small I had been thinking before then. Like, but you don't realize it till you see it, right? Till you awaken to it, till there's light on it, right? Till you enlighten to it. And then you're like, oh, like, like, oh, here I am over here worried about this, right? Like, it's kind of like when COVID hit, you know what I mean? Huge perspective shift, right? It's like, you know, one week we're like, you know, I need to get my nails done. And like the next week we're like, oh my God, like, is the world going to be okay? Like, I need to check on my family, you know, like it changed, like, who cares about my nails? You know what I mean? Like, it's like things shift our perspective so we can see it in a new way, right? Like, so in a couple weeks we're going to have, or in about like a week and a half to 2 weeks, we're going to have Venus coming into an opposition with Mars. And Venus is going to be conjunct Pluto, really showing us this higher perspective of the collective and feminine energy and feminine power, right? And Mars is going to be retrograde, right? So it's kind of going to be slowing down its feistiness and having to kind of potentially listen and get out of its own way, get out of its own drama for a minute to see what is happening on a bigger level, right? And so that's going to be huge in a week or so. So we have so many things happening this month that are really taking us out of our comfort zone, taking us out of our normal day-to-day mundane perspectives. And when we run into conflict, can we rewrite the story? Can we remember that we're the storytellers, right? Sag, so Sagittarian, right? Embrace that Sagittarius archetype, see it from a bigger perspective. Don't ignore the details. You can pay attention to the details while seeing things from a bigger perspective. And that's the gift that we have right now with Jupiter being in Gemini and Mercury being in Sagittarius. They're in each other's signs, showing us like, hey, you can balance both, right? You can, if you can integrate both, you can see a bigger picture here. So with that being said, comment down below, badass alien, if you are still here and you watched the whole first half of this video. I appreciate you so, so much. I have a Black Friday sale going on until into the week, this coming week. So many things on my website are so super discounted. So see the description below for more info on that. If you would like to get a reading, if you're going through something and would like to know what the hell's going on, if you want to know how 2025 is going to be for you, whatever you need, just see the description below. Also, just to save some time editing, I decided to do the horoscopes, the rising sign horoscopes, a little bit differently than I normally do. I just did them voiceover style just to test it out and see how it goes. And yeah, but let go. Alrighty, Sagittarius, we are doing these horoscope readings voiceover style, so welcome to the party. So as I always say, when you have a new moon in your first house, if you are a Sagittarius rising, it is new moon, new you, boo. If you didn't watch the first part of this video, you're going to relate to it a lot. Okay, so you need to go back and do that after this. But I will say that this is a time of initiating new things, of feeling something brewing, something new brewing within you, within your body, within your soul, within the things that you want to initiate, that you want to create, that you want to accomplish, right? With this new moon being in your first house, this brings up topics of appearance, your body, your personality traits. It's really a time, like new moon in the first house, like new moons in the first house are really a time of just coming back to yourself. It's kind of like a breath of fresh air. It's like, damn it, I can just worry about me again and not worry about all these other people and all these other things. Like, it's just a time of coming back to your center, coming back to who you are, and coming back to what you want rather than what everybody else wants and what everybody else is doing. Now, there's still going to be some overwhelm with other people and everybody else because you do have your ruling planet in your opposite sign of Gemini, which can be bringing up a lot of decisions, a lot of mental conflicts, a lot of debates, a lot of back and forth with some relationships or a relationship in your life. And so this is a time where you are seeing things from your perspective more clearly and what you want and what's meaningful and important to you more clearly, but you're also being challenged to put yourself in other people's shoes as well. And so this is a time where you are feeling very inspired, very driven, or you will start to feel very inspired and very driven to create new things in your life, to do new things in your life, to worry about yourself more and to see things from a bigger perspective. And really, like, you know, with that Mars and Leo in your 9th house trining this new moon, again, this is like, what do I find meaningful in life? What do I find meaningful in the world? What do I want to do with my life? What's the bigger purpose here? Like, where am I going? Where am I headed? What do I believe? What's sacred and meaningful to me personally? So yeah, the first theme is very much realignment with self, with your own values, with things that are meaningful for you, with what your body needs and wants, with, you know, your own personality. And yeah, so the other part of this though is that you are maybe feeling a little bit delayed, restricted, set back, or dealing with some things that are out of your control in terms of your home and family life, or even something from your past, your roots, things like that, with that 4th house energy, right? Because Saturn is squaring this new moon in your sign or in your 1st house, and Saturn is in your 4th house of home, family, or private life, your personal life. So there could be some setbacks, some mysterious things that feel out of your control, some delays, or some things going on with family and your private life and your personal life that you really need to face, right? Or you need to let go of and surrender to if you have no control over them, okay? That is really what this transit is bringing up. That is a huge lesson of this transit. Can you release these things and still have a belief that it's going to be okay? See it from a higher perspective. Can you surrender what's not yours to carry, right? Where are these old burdens, these old things from the past, these old soul contracts to do with family and childhood, personal life, private life, your family dynamics, your home life? Where do you need to release some of these things so you can finally initiate this new beginning, finally step forward? And yeah, Mercury retrograding in your 1st house, also probably not having the funnest time with that. The details can feel a little bit all over the place and you're trying to look at the higher perspective, but there seems to be a lot of evidence or a lot of mishaps in communication or miscommunications that are coming up and making you feel like you're stumbling over your words a little bit, which, you know, it's fine. It's Mercury retrograde. Okay. So take it easy on yourself, Sag. That's really what I'm trying to say here. Really try to feel that inspiring new moon energy and use that and see the bigger picture. Let go of what is not yours to carry. Let go of the past. Surrender to what you can't control and believe in yourself. And remember that this is your journey. It is a journey of a lifetime. There's going to always be ebbs and flows. And remember that you are the writer of your story and you're going to rise above it as you always do. Alrighty, Capricorn, I bet you guys are feeling so good with Pluto out of your 1st house. You guys probably feel like you can breathe again, and it's probably just going to keep getting better and better. So lucky you. Okay, so happy new moon in Sagittarius. This is happening in your 12th house. Okay, so this is a very subconscious energy. You may not be feeling this like, you know, super intensely, like it may not be coming up right in front of your face, but there's something brewing underneath the surface subconsciously that is potentially trying to get your attention over these next couple of weeks, as we have quite a few things happening here in Sag with Mercury retrograde as well in your 12th house. So there's a lot of going back, reflecting on the past, maybe some nostalgia, a lot of going and reflecting on the things that are kind of hidden in your day-to-day life, the things that you don't always think about, or the things that have been kind of pushed to the side for a long time, right? So this could be a time where you are finding that you may want to seclude yourself a little bit more. You may want to back away from certain things that you were doing before, or you may need to take a little bit to kind of reflect and go within and figure out what is really driving you, right? What your intention really is, or there may just be some things that you need to clean up on a subconscious level that have been kind of dictating your day-to-day life. Maybe some old habits or some old thought patterns, some old programming, right? Something going on there that's kind of making an overwhelm in your work or your day-to-day reality in some way, or with your health, right? And so these are the things that you could really see coming up around this new moon. Now, also, this is also kind of putting your attention on Mars in your 8th house of finances and other people's money, and debt and power and maybe things that are more taboo or occult or morality, right? So this is making a trine with Mars and really getting your engine going. Like maybe there's something behind the scenes that you need to address, or something from the past that you're addressing, that somehow is kind of inspiring you to move forward in a financial way, in some way, shape, or form, or is going to be good for you financially in some way. Okay, so this new moon is really about rest and recovery, seeing a different perspective that has maybe been hidden from you and may unfold over the next couple weeks. Okay, so that, like I said, this may not be very obvious and right in front of your face right at the new moon. It's probably going to take the next couple weeks to unfold and really show you what this new moon is going to be about for you. Now, this new moon is squaring Saturn in your third house, so there could be some potential delays, hang-ups, setbacks, things going on in terms of transportation or movement in some way, or the movement of something that you've been intending to do that could feel kind of out of your control. Okay, or some miscommunications going on, or things not quite working out in your day-to-day life as you saw or wanted them to. And this is potentially happening for a reason that you may not understand just yet, but that may be clear either later on. So I know that might be a little bit difficult here, especially as a Capricorn rising. You're more about what you can see, feel, and touch and what's right in front of you, right? But right now, there are things going on basically that are a little bit beyond you, that are a little bit out of your control, or feel a little bit mysterious or eerie, or you can't quite put your finger on, but you're being pointed into a direction of seclusion, privacy, going within. So the more that you can do those things, the more that you will get answers. Your dream world could be sending you a lot of different symbolism, messages, things like that about what's needed from you at this time, right? And so this is where you can find a lot of your answers, but they're going to be subconscious. They're going to be within. They're going to be when you are in a quiet space, when you are spending time with yourself. That's when things start unraveling and making sense for you. So that is what I see for you, Capricorn risings. Let me know down below if that resonated. And if you missed the beginning of this video, definitely go back and watch that, because it's really, really good and will help you move through the next couple weeks with this energy. Alrighty, Aquarius risings, welcome. I would love to know if you are an Aquarius rising and your ascendant is anywhere in like the first 10 to 15 degrees of Aquarius. Let me know down below how Pluto is going for you so far. I know it dipped in last year and everything, but I would still love to know what's happening. What are you noticing so far? I'd really, really love to hear your feedback down below. Okay, so happy Sagittarius New Moon, boo. This new moon for you is in your 11th house of other people, your social life, parties, events, marketing, all kinds of group related activities, the collective, right? Very, very kind of like, social vibes all the way with this new moon. So this is actually really kind of cool for you, Aquarius. This could definitely be sparking that social spirit, and it's perfect, right? Holidays are right around the corner. You could find yourself feeling a little bit busy or having a lot of different things going on, opportunities related to work, networking opportunities, events, parties, things like that, right? But there also is, with Mercury retrograde, kind of a hang up maybe in some plans or details or communication, certain delays and setbacks as well, unfortunately. So there can be some frustrations with that, but you are definitely finding yourself a lot more focused on your social life and the bigger picture of how your goals connect with other people's goals, right? How, basically kind of finding your tribe, so to say, right? Finding other groups of people or other, different people that have something in common with you, or that have a shared interest, a shared hobby, a shared goal in some way, right? And you're reflecting on this part of your life as well with Mercury retrograde here, right? Trying to kind of figure out if, the people that are in your life now are really aligned, if, you want to add more people in or kick some people out, right? So it's kind of all of those types of things really coming up. And what this new moon is really highlighting, this could be a new beginning over the next couple weeks of you really finding your way in terms of your social life and finding out like what's meaningful for you. What's the purpose of all these friendships? What's the purpose of some of these groups that you're involved in? Do you guys have a similar vision, a similar goal? right? And so those are the things that are really coming up and that are being highlighted with this new moon and over the next couple weeks. Now, this is also somehow impacting your relationships in a more smooth way as well, with Mars and Leo, your opposite sign, trining this new moon. So this is definitely bringing in your close relationships with other people as well, and how your relationships with other people that are, close people in your life are involved in your social life and in maybe some of these events or some of these different social gatherings or social things that you have going on in your life, right? So now also we have Mercury retrograde opposite Jupiter in Gemini in your 5th house. So there's also this kind of trial era that's been going on, and that will still be going on for the next couple weeks or so, of you really figuring out what your passions are and what you want to bring to the world and the audience for those passions. And again, where you find interest, aligned interest with other people, like where your interests align with other people, where your hobbies and the things that are on your heart and the things that you're passionate about align with other people, where other people, align with those same interests and passions, right? Now, the other thing about this new moon is it is squaring Saturn in Pisces in your 2nd house of resources. So this is definitely a time where you can notice some things that could feel a little bit out of your control or a little bit mysterious, a little bit unknown going on with resources, and it's somehow connected to these social events, these gatherings, these social situations that you're moving through with this new moon. So there's a new awareness coming in here, a new beginning being kind of planted underneath the soil here that's kind of brewing, but it's somehow also triggering maybe some difficulties or some issues that you've had with resources that you are trying to figure out. Now, what I've been saying and what I said in the beginning, and if you didn't watch the beginning, definitely go do that because it's going to be very helpful and it's actually really potent and powerful. But what I've been saying is to let go of the things you can't control. So if this Saturn and Pisces energy is something that is bringing something that is out of your control, then it is time to let it go because you can't control it anyway, right? And so focus on what you can control. Now, if it is something in your control, then that's when you face it and you figure it out and you figure out other options, other solutions, right? That, may not appear right away. You may have to change your perspective, right? And so anyway, so these are the different areas of life and the different points the different kind of energies being triggered for you for this new moon. Let me know down below, Aquarius, if that was helpful, if it resonated. Please, I'd love to hear your feedback and what's going on with you and how this is all resonating. And if you didn't watch the first part of this video, definitely go back and do that. Alrighty, Pisces Risings, welcome to your Sagittarius New Moon horoscope for the first couple weeks of December. So basically, this new moon is starting a new beginning. It is planting some seeds in terms of your career. Exciting. We love 10th house transits. This is very, very much shifting your focus for the next few weeks to your career, your public image, your reputation, your goals, your achievements, what you want in the world, what you want out of life, your legacy. What are you here to leave behind? Where are you going in your life? This is definitely going to be the focus for the next few weeks and has already somewhat been the focus with Mercury also retrograding in this area as you're really reflecting on these things. You're reflecting on your goals. You're reflecting on your future. You're reflecting on where you want to go and the desires, the passion, the aliveness that you feel for your current career, your current direction, or wherever it is that you want to go, right? You're really reflecting on if you're finding meaning and purpose in the direction that you're going or in in a new direction that you could be pondering, right? And so these are really some of the themes that this new moon is bringing up for you and bringing with it, right? Now, with that being said, this new moon is in a really lovely aspect with Mars and Leo in your 6th house. So it's also really getting this fuel and this motivation and this kind of vibrancy, right? Like this vivacious spirit of Mars and Leo in your 6th house of work, health, and day-to-day routines. So you could find that you're very motivated lately, that you're able to get a lot more done, that you're feeling very inspired, and that work is feeling a lot more inspiring and creative, and that you're able to really use your creativity a little bit more during this time, and that you know that the steps that you're taking in your day-to-day work life are actually fueling this bigger direction, this bigger vision that you have for your future. And so that's it as well, you know, like your vision. That's very Sagittarian 10th house. Like, what is your vision for your future? What is your vision for where you're going, and all of that, right? So that definitely is very much helping with that Mars and Leo in your 6th. Now, the other part of this is, like I said, the Mercury retrograde. So you're also reflecting on these things. You're reflecting on if the steps that you had been taking up until this point, you know, are really getting you where you want to go. And, you know, you're also potentially going through some miscommunications, some minor setbacks and delays regarding your journey in terms of going to that big vision and accomplishing that big vision, right? And also dealing with maybe some overwhelm or confusion or some back and forth with your home, family, and private life. So that's also kind of being thrown into the mix here as Mercury retrograde is opposing Jupiter in your 4th house of Gemini. So there's a lot that you're kind of reflecting on. You're trying to see the bigger picture here, but there's also a lot of details that need to be sorted out, or you're maybe lacking some of the details, or lacking some of the evidence, or lacking some of the understanding that you need to move forward in your life after this big goal or this big vision, or, you know, the pinnacle of where you want to be in terms of your career or in terms of your life purpose, or where you see yourself, you know, in terms of going where you're going in your life, right? And so that's being sorted out though, because, you know, in the next week or so, Jupiter and Mercury are going to come into their exact opposition. And I think this is going to allow for you to integrate some of the understanding and the details with the bigger picture, right? And with the higher perspective. Okay. Now, also this new moon in Sagittarius is also squaring Saturn in your 1st house, right? And so this is also potentially some delays and some setbacks going on with you. Where are you potentially self-sabotaging your own efforts or your own goals or your own vision, right? Where are you kind of holding yourself back or being very cautious, being very, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Where are you limiting yourself, right? So these are some of the things that this Sag New Moon could be kind of shifting your focus to. Like, where have you been overly cautious, or where have you been overly, you know, concerned or worried, or limiting yourself or limiting your goals, right? And so this could very well be kind of the vibe as well, right? Okay, I had to add this in here because I was done, and then I was like, this just came through for you. So this may not relate to all of you, but I had to say it. So I really feel like this is kind of like the whole staircase metaphor, right? Like, you see the end of the staircase, but you also see all the steps that you have to get there, and it can feel so overwhelming, right? And so it's like, how do I get to the top? And I have to take all these steps, and it feels so overwhelming. And it's like, one step at a time. Like, simplify it. Keep the vision, but also simplify it. That's how you integrate the understanding and the details and the steps with the bigger vision, the outcome, right? The actual destination, right? So I feel like that's something. And the other thing I really feel here with this new moon squaring Saturn in your 1st, I feel like this is a lesson for you Pisces risings and forgiving yourself. Letting go of the things out of your control, letting go of things that you've maybe been holding on to do with your past, or to do with certain personality traits or identity traits that you may even feel are restricting you, or maybe even something to do with your body or your appearance, because 1st house rules those kinds of things as well. But it's like, this is like forgiving yourself, letting go what's been out of your control, and seeing it from a higher perspective. That way you can forgive yourself. That way you can do the alchemy work and move forward. Again, if you didn't listen to the first part of this video, I swear, like, your horoscope is somehow so aligned with it. So definitely go do that. Anyways, I love you, Pisces. Let me know down below how this resonated for you. Alrighty, Aries risings, happy new moon in Sagittarius, baby. I hope you guys are fired up for this one because it's a fellow fire sign after all. So this new moon in Sag is in your 9th house. So talk about major Sag energy, major higher perspective, higher wisdom coming in. Definitely seeing things from a more optimistic viewpoint and really tapping into that higher wisdom, that expansive view, right? That view of the soul, right? That view of a soul on a journey, right? Where can we tap into that with this energy? So basically, Aries, yeah, with this new moon in your 9th house, this is definitely bringing up matters of your belief systems, your morals, your values, what you find meaningful and sacred in life and in the world, your higher philosophical ideals, right? Your higher maybe political ideals as well, or religious ideals, right? These things that really teach us in life, or that really shape our outlook on our lives, are really coming up around this time for you as an Aries rising, right? Now, also, what's really cool about this new moon is that your ruling planet Mars and fellow fire sign Leo is trining this new moon from your 5th house. So not only are you feeling creative and inspired as Mars is really ramping up the creativity, the inspiration, the things, matters of the heart that feel very fulfilling and that feel very vital, right? Giving you that dose of vitality and, newness in your creative inspiration, matters of the heart sector in the 5th house. It's really making a beautiful aspect to this new moon in Sagittarius, inspiring you to move forward with some of these things that you love or some of these matters of the heart, and seeing the bigger vision, the bigger perspective, and where it could lead to, and how it could help you, how it could teach you, right? Or how it could shift your outlook on your life and the world. And that's already happening anyway, because Mercury retrograde is in your 9th house as well. So you're really reflecting on your outlooks. You're really reflecting on your perspective of life, of, the bigger picture stuff. Like, why are we here? What's the meaning? What's my purpose? Like all these bigger questions are really ruled by the 9th house. And, with Sagittarius, this new moon in Sagittarius here, it's really bringing these things up and bringing a focus on teaching, learning, traveling, new avenues, anything that really gets you out of your comfort zone and shows you a new perspective, a new way of experiencing things, a new way of believing, basically, right? So this is really a time of you looking for the meaning and purpose in your life again, and what feels sacred and inspiring for you, right? Now with Mercury retrograde here, you could find that some of, if you have any travel plans, there could be some miscommunications, some slight delays or setbacks could come up. So that is a little bit of the downside of it, but these things could be happening for reasons that you may not understand right away, but it doesn't necessarily make them a bad thing, right? And that's also what a similar lesson to Saturn in your 12th house in Pisces, also squaring this new moon in Sagittarius. There's things that may be out of your sight, out of your vision, or out of your control, or even subconscious patterns, subconscious things coming up that you may not be able to put your finger on right now, or it may feel a little bit bigger than you or out of your vision in some way. But the things that are out of your control, you are learning to let go. You are learning to be the own writer of your story again. You are learning to get kind of fired up about life again and inspired about life again, right? And, with Mars going retrograde soon in Leo in your 5th house, you're going to be really reflecting, getting deep about matters of the heart and the things that really mean something to you in your life, and what's really important to you in your life in terms of matters of the heart and your creativity and your inspiration and all of that. But right now, you're really focusing on, over the next couple of weeks, changing your viewpoint, changing your perspective, coming at things from a bigger perspective. So you could be taking on a new learning project, or reflecting on some old philosophies or old ideals, old maybe spiritual practices or religious practices, or something, old theories, etc., that you used to believe in or that you used to really get something out of. You could be coming back or relearning or going deeper, something like that, or visiting something new eventually after the Mercury retrograde, right? And so there is a lot going on here though with travel. So I'm assuming some of you guys, whether it's a short travel or a far away travel, that some of you guys could really be having a theme of movement, traveling, and transportation in your lives, with the 3rd and 9th house activated. Again, though, there may be some minor mishaps that come up with that, so just make sure that you are on the lookout. But all in all, I think this is a really cool new moon for you if you're an Aries rising, and really helping you to look at things from a higher view, a higher perspective, and kind of changing your mind, right? This time is really about changing your mind, not being too dogmatic, too attached to one ideal or another, learning to look at things from different perspectives, different views, learning to get out of your comfort zone and see different sides of things, right? And so anyways, let me know down below, Aries, how that is resonating. I would really, really love to hear your feedback and hear, how this may be coming up for you, or how you may be noticing these things in your life. And then also, if you missed the beginning, you're definitely missing out on a lot. It's going to make so much more sense and go even deeper and help you so much. You're going to relate to it on, different levels when you watch the beginning. So definitely go back and do that if you didn't already, and I will see you in the next one. Alrighty, Taurus risings, happy Sagittarius new moon. Here is your horoscope. So this new moon in Sagittarius is happening in your 8th house. Okay, so this is a very powerful house. Deals with power, the occult, esoteric things. Also, it deals with other people's money, finances, debt, sometimes divorce, sometimes, uncomfortable financial agreements or changes that we have to go through. And sometimes it's just your partner's finances. Sometimes it's actually financial opportunities, investments, or even inheritance, right? And so these are the different themes that we're working with for the next couple of weeks for this new moon. And Mercury is already retrograde here in this area for you. So you're really reflecting on these things. What is yours and what is other people's? What do you share with other people? Where do some changes need to be made in the financial department, right? Where do we need to reflect on certain topics surrounding our power, right? Or, you know, maybe getting back into some occult practices that we've gotten out of, for some of you that are into that, right? Like, so this is definitely bringing up this kind of duality or this polarity of your resources and what's good for you versus sharing that with other people, or what you do share with other people and what's good for them, right? While also showing you new and higher perspectives. Doesn't mean that this couldn't be a time of opportunity for you financially as well, right? But there's definitely a focus on finances, investments, maybe paying off old debt, or getting rid of old financial agreements, or reflecting on those agreements in some way, right? Contracts, all of these things, right, can really be coming up or coming to the surface, or you could start noticing these topics coming up a little bit more around this time. Now, what's really interesting here is that Mars in Leo, fellow fire sign to Sag, is trining this new moon in Sagittarius, really bringing in this kind of hot, fiery motivation and inspiration from Leo in your 4th house of home, family, and private life. So in some way, these financial matters, or these financial topics, or the other topics I named off that could be coming up with your 8th house new moon happening here, could be in some way influenced by, or correlating to, or corresponding to your home life, your family life, your private life. You know, there could be something going on, maybe if you're trying to buy a new home, or build a new home, or sell your home, you know, like usually 4th and 8th house transits can bring up that kind of thing, right? Since 4th house is home and 8th house is finances. So something like that could be going on, or it could just be connected to your home, family, or private life, parents, maybe even in some way, right? So the other thing here is that Saturn in your 11th house of your social life and friends, networking, marketing, things like that, connections, acquaintances, is squaring this new moon as well. And so there could be some things that are kind of out of your control to do with other people, you know, especially if you're doing something with like an investment opportunity or something like that. Maybe there are some investors and there's something kind of out of your control delaying it or slowing it down, or that you're not quite sure about just yet. You can't put your finger on it just yet, or you're trying to figure it out, but it kind of seems a little bit vague right now in some way. And so something like that could be going on for some of you as well. Either way, the topic of other people and finances is really big right now, or groups of people and finances is really big right now. There could be some project that, you know, is costing you financially to do with other people. You know, maybe you've also invested some of your own resources in it, or your own resources are tangled up in it in some way. And so this is really bringing it to the surface, right? This is really bringing these topics to the surface, because there are certain lessons here that, you know, that you're learning, that we're all learning with this new moon, right? And so anyways, I would definitely love to hear how this is relating and what you are noticing coming up down below, if any of this is relating so far. But it is a new moon, so it's subtle. So the stuff isn't going to be right in your face right away. I mean, you could see some of these things kind of coming up already, but it's going to build over the next couple weeks, right? And but either way, there is some kind of new beginning starting here in your 8th house with financial matters, while you're also reflecting on, you know, the past and old financial matters, and, you know, sharing financial things, right? Sharing resources in some way. And so, yeah, definitely let me know down below, Taurus, what you are noticing coming up. And if you missed the first part of this video, definitely go back and watch it. It will be super, super helpful the next 2 weeks. It was a very, very powerful, powerful reading in the first half of this video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Alrighty, Gemini Risings, hello, and welcome to your Sag New Moon horoscope. I hope you guys are doing well up in Sag season. So for you, Gemini, this new moon is happening in your 7th house of relationships. So this new moon is bringing up a lot of polarity in your life, and you're probably feeling it, right? There's a lot of polarity between like what you know and what you understand, and what other people know and what other people understand, right? It's really kind of bringing up, you know, the whole like walk a mile in someone else's shoes kind of metaphor, right? It's like, well, this is what how I want to grow and how I want to expand, and the things I want to understand and where I'm going in my life, right? With Jupiter and your sign ruling this new moon in your 7th, but like, you only come to understand and know yourself by knowing others. So it's bringing up a lot of that, right? There's a huge focus here on relationships and how that somehow correlates back to your own sense of self and your own sense of identity and your own personality and your own identity traits and even your own appearance, your own body, your own vitality, right? With it being the first house, those are all big first house themes. And with other people, right? Like, so this new moon being in the seventh house can be a time of like closure and endings as well, because it is where the sun sets. But there's also, and that makes sense as well with Mercury retrograde in your seventh house. So there's like a lot of going back and kind of reflecting on the close relationships in your life. But this could also be kind of pinpointing or really dialing into one specific relationship. But I want you to kind of think about it from a higher perspective here, right? Because it's very Sag, it's very Jupiter, right? So it's going to be really easy to get laser focused on the details and all of the little things. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't necessarily. I'm just saying that if you can integrate that with also a higher perspective and really look at the meaning behind all of these things, the lessons behind whatever is happening in your life right now to do with you and other people in close relationships or even one relationships. Can you spot the pattern? Can you spot the higher perspective? Can you find the wisdom in it, right? Because that's really what this energy is teaching us and showing us, right? It's showing us things from a new perspective. So now with this new moon really in your seventh house, you may feel a little bit like other people are showing you things about yourself, or other people are mirroring to you certain projections or reflections of your own self, your own identity, like pieces of who you are, right? And I talked about this a lot in the first half of this video. So if you didn't go watch it, you definitely need to go watch it because you're going to relate to it on whole new levels. And I go really, really deep, and it's going to really, really relate for you as a Gemini rising. But I feel like with the seventh house energy, you're really focused on relationships and how these relationships add meaning, value to your life and to you as a person, because they're teaching you about yourself in some way, shape, or form. And this is how you evolve. This is how you grow. There's this like experimental, beautiful experimental energy to you, Gemini. If you can just view life as an experiment, things can go really, really well, right? Well, with Sagittarius, there's this beautiful evolutionary energy, right? How can we evolve? How can we grow? How can we experience new perspectives, new sides, new things, right? Both you and Sag have a little bit to do with that as mutable signs, adapting, evolving, growing, progressing, right? The ebbs and flows, right? And so that's so much what this new moon is really bringing in. You could find that you are thinking a lot about your relationships throughout your life, or that even for somehow, some way, like relationships, close relationships from the past are coming back to your mind, or somehow coming back around, or you randomly get a friend request from someone on Facebook, or, you know, something like that, right? Or some situation happens that seems really, really similar to a past situation with that Mercury retrograde in your seventh house and being your ruling planet, your chart ruler, right? Like relationships are really, really showing you something about you, are really, really trying to teach you a lesson right now. And if you can be curious, right? Use your curiosity, that like bright, positive curiosity that you have as a Gemini rising, you could be able to spot it potentially, right? Over these next few weeks, right? So also there can be some issues though, and I can see where some of your frustration might be for some of you if you guys are having a frustrating time with relationships or other people, because Saturn is in your 10th house, squaring this new moon, and, you know, squaring these different Sag transits that we've had over the last couple months. So there's been kind of this story going on between you and either one of your close relationships or many of your close relationships, where you've been really, really thinking about the future, the long term, what you really want out of life, and getting very serious about it, and thinking about how it all connects, and thinking about the bigger purpose, the bigger meaning behind everything, right? With Saturn in your 10th. But how do your relationships or a certain relationship fit into that? Do you share the same goals? Do you have the same ideas for the future? Do you share the same ideals about where you're going and what you want out of life? Or is it somehow conflicting with your career or your life path or your own future vision and desires for your future in some way, right? Is there an element of time somehow involved, or distance somehow involved, right? Also, you know, the more positive aspect that we have with this is Mars and Leo trining this new moon in your 7th house, and Mars and Leo is in your 3rd house. So this is really going to give you some inspiration and motivation to be able to initiate certain conversations and to kind of get creative with how you respond and communicate to these issues on like a day-to-day basis. And so that is kind of the positive, the positive side of this. Not that any of it's really negative, right? I think all of this is just really kind of showing you these different versions and sides of yourself that need to be accepted, integrated, that you need to find wholeness with, right? And I feel like that's the bigger lesson here behind these transits for you as a Gemini rising. So let me know down below, Gemini, if that is really resonating with you. If I touched on something there, I would really, really love to hear your feedback and how this is going for you. And again, if you missed the first half of this video, like seriously, you're gonna relate to it so much. Go back and watch it. Alrighty, Cancer risings, happy Sag New Moon. Let's get into your horoscope and what this new moon is bringing for you guys. So this new moon is in the 6th house of work, health, and day-to-day routines, the kind of mundane schedules and things that need to get done on a day-to-day basis. So the 6th house really rules things like your work, your actual like physical health and how you keep up with that. It's kind of like the maintenance house, right? It's kind of like the house where, you know, it's like what needs to be done on a day-to-day basis and how do you keep up with those things, right? And so this is definitely a time where you can find that you are having more of an optimistic look on overcoming the challenges and the mundane or tedious details of your day-to-day life, that you feel a little bit more motivated or optimistic to take things on, or that you have more of a new perspective being birthed or being created here, or a new beginning, a fresh new energy coming in here to kind of deal with and maintain certain duties, certain you know, schedules, certain routines, etc. This could really be bringing in a fresh energy where you've been thinking about changing up your routine with Mercury retrograde here. You've been really reflecting on how you go about maintaining your day-to-day life. What are your schedules like? Have you been super busy and needed to slow down and reflect? Is your job and your task that your job demands of you, like, is that really something you want to be doing? You know, how are things going at your job? How are things going with your diet or your health or, you know, etc., right? It's like kind of like the unglamorous work that needs to be done, but somebody's got to do it and it's our life, so we got to do it, right? Are you doing your skincare? Are you remembering to eat well? You know, like all of these different things are really ruled by the 6th house. And so these are different topics that you could really see coming up over these next couple of weeks, right? So with that being said, you know, there are some things that you could find very easy around this time because Mars is trining this new moon in your 6th house and Mars is in your 2nd house. So there are a lot of really great energies here in terms of your resources, your money, what you own, the things that you value and that you keep close to you in your life are really in harmony with this new moon in your 6th house of work, health, and your day-to-day routines. So that really tells me this is a time where you may be being motivated to maybe work overtime, or maybe there's an opportunity for you to make some more money, or you know, change positions at your job or something along those lines, right? There's definitely some good energy right around this new moon connecting with resources and motivating you to kind of make more, right? Or do more things that bring more value into your life in some way, shape, or form, right? So the other thing with this, though, is that there is an energy with the 6th and the 12th, with Jupiter coming into its opposition with Mercury retrograde in Sag this week from your 12th to your 6th. There's an energy here of really starting to realize and see certain subconscious habits that have been kind of holding you back, right? Or that you've kind of lost control of, right? That you haven't been maintaining in some way, right? And so you're kind of realizing these things and needing to shift things around or change things or adapt or manage it so you can get back on top of it again, right? So that's like the other thing I really see coming in here. Or it's a process of integration of certain subconscious habits or a need to kind of rest that maybe you had been putting off. And so it's like your subconscious and your conscious mind, in terms of your habits and your work and your health, are really going to be integrating and communicating with each other in the weeks ahead. You're going to be receiving messages about the right paths to take in terms of these areas of your life, if that makes sense. So the other thing here is Saturn is in Pisces in your 9th house, right? And so it could either be really breaking down the walls of some of your old belief systems and your outlooks on the world, and really kind of dissipating a lot of illusions that you've been under, or it could be kind of limiting you in terms of your belief systems, your spiritual outlooks on life, your philosophical outlooks, your ideologies on life. It could be feeling a little bit like a limitation in some way, right? But either way, Saturn is squaring this new moon in your 6th house. So regardless, I find that the 6th, 9th house square really deals a lot with how our outlooks on life, right, deal with our health and our day-to-day maintenance, right? Because if we don't really have a very positive outlook on life, if we really feel like we're doomed, or our future isn't looking too bright, or we don't really feel connected to something higher than ourselves, or we don't really feel we have some kind of purpose or mission that we're working towards, or some kind of new evolution that we're working towards, we can start to feel drained and burnt out, and what's the point of doing all these little tedious things and taking care of myself and taking care of all these responsibilities I have, right? And so that can really start negatively impacting us, right? So some of you could find some of that going on here, or where you are coming up against limiting outlooks or limiting belief systems or negative belief systems, or even learning to let go of some of these old views or pessimistic outlooks that you may have had on the world or your life in general, or the vision for your life, or where you're going in some way, right? That way you can move forward. And for some of you, if you feel like, no, I really don't feel like I'm letting go or seeing a higher outlook here on my beliefs, then just put that to the side for now and take things one step at a time and focus on that 6th house. Like, okay, today I'm gonna take care of myself. I'm gonna do my skincare, and don't worry about the bigger picture as much, right? And so really what we're seeing with this is Jupiter versus Mercury energy, right? And I use this analogy with another sign, but sometimes, it's the whole staircase analogy, right? Like, we can see where we want the destination at the top of the stairs, but all those stairs can feel daunting or overwhelming. But it's like, just take one step at a time. And even if you don't see the destination, still take care of yourself. Take one step at a time, right? Take it easy on yourself, etc., right? And for others of you, this could be seeing a higher perspective and breaking through old illusions and all of that. And some of you could even be like traveling for work, or, getting serious about a certain career path or a certain job that you have, and maybe traveling for it, or stepping up into more responsibility in terms of your work, etc. So let me know down below, Cancer. I would really, really love to hear your feedback on this and hear like what is playing out for you. Are you noticing these themes? Have I touched on anything that's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I've been going through? And if not, let me know what you have been going through. And if you missed the first half of this video, you are missing out on a lot, you guys. Like, it's so, so powerful. You're likely going to relate to a lot of it. So definitely go back and check that out. And I will see you guys in the next one. What's up, my fellow Leo risings, and welcome to your Sagittarius New Moon horoscope. Let's get into it, shall we? So, alrighty, Leo. So this Sagittarius New Moon is happening in our 5th house of matters of the heart. That is really, truly what the 5th house encompasses. It's all matters of the heart. It's also the house of good fortune and luck, actually, in ancient astrology. And it deals a lot with pleasure, creativity, sex, recreation, and creation in general, fun, love, romance, fertility. This is really where we enjoy life, where we can create, where we find inspiration and passion, right? And yeah, like this is the fun part, right? So anyway, so a new moon here is reigniting the passions and the inspirations of the heart, the things that really matter to us, the things that light us up, the things that make our soul feel on fire. We're like, oh my God, right? Like, it's those kinds of things. Like, it's getting back to like the gifts of the soul, the talents of the soul, the inspirations of the soul, right? Inspirations are like little fluttering synchronicities, like reminding us of what we're passionate about. And that's really what the fifth house really is, right? And on top of that, Mars in our sign is trining this new moon in Sagittarius. So we're feeling motivated. We're feeling inspired around this new moon. We are feeling more optimistic, and we're getting a new perspective. We're getting a really massive new perspective here over these next couple weeks. You may not feel it right at the new moon, and some of you may start feeling it kind of blooming, but over the next few weeks, we're getting this massive new perspective on the matters of the heart, on this fifth house energy, because we not only have this new moon here, but we also have Mercury retrograding here, really making us reflect on these matters of the heart, on the things that are important to us, the things that matter to us, the things that we find meaningful, the things that we find inspiring, the things that we are passionate about, and getting back to our gifts, right? Like, we're usually passionate about many things that we have a gift in or a calling towards, right? And so that's so much what this new moon is kind of starting. Like, it's like this seed that's being planted, but also a lot of us could find that we're kind of returning to things from the past that we used to be passionate about, or that we kind of put on the back burner for a little bit or forgot about, right? Like, I've found for myself, like, I've been getting into like tarot again and really getting back into so many different passions that I've had, or that I used to have, but kind of got out of, right? Like, my passion for astrology is like really, really revamped lately. And so some of you guys could be noticing this as well. So now, other than that, right, we are about to be going into a Mars retrograde in the month of December, which is really, really huge for us Leo risings, because Mars is going to retrograde in our sign and then back into our 12th house. And I'm potentially going to do December horoscopes for all signs, so just stay tuned. But if not, at the very least, I will talk about it or do a separate video on it, or talk about it during the full moon video this month. I don't know yet, but I have so many different ideas, very Mercury retrograde in Sag and new moon in Sag, and I'm just still figuring out the details and how to get it all done in time. But anyway, this is a really big deal because, I feel like for Leos, we are about to embark on a journey with this Mars retrograde, where we are refinding ourselves, where we are refinding our light. And this Sagittarius new moon is kind of like a step in this journey. This Sagittarius new moon is like kind of reminding us and reflecting back to us, like, hey, you have certain gifts, you have certain passions, you have, even if they're gifts that you don't want to necessarily like give to the world, right, or show everyone, like you have certain things about you that make you special, right? That really reflect that glimmer of light within your soul. And I think this Mars retrograde is sending us on a journey to find ourselves again, to come back to our light, to come back to our reason for being in a lot of ways, right? I feel like I kind of got that message, that download the other day about this Mars retrograde in Leo, especially for Leo risings. So anyway, other than that, for this new moon, the Saturn in Pisces is squaring this new moon. So what that really tells me, and Saturn's in our 8th house. So what that really tells me is that even though we might have these newfound inspirations, or maybe old found inspirations coming back, or whatever, we have these new ideas, or we have this more optimistic view, this light kind of returning, matters of the heart, inspiration, creativity, passion returning, there can feel like there are certain subconscious limits or certain things out of our control that feel a little bit like they are holding us back in some way with Saturn in the 8th. Or it could feel like other people or finances or certain even soul contracts are kind of holding us back from moving forward with these inspirations, with these things that we want to create, with these passions, with these matters of the heart, right? And so it's really just saying that there's still some things left to learn. There's still some forgiveness, right? Saturn and Pisces. There's still some things left, some karma, and karma is neither good or bad. It's just the process of really seeing things from a new perspective, which is so much what this new moon in Sagittarius chapter is starting, right? Seeing things from a new perspective, seeing things from a higher perspective. And so the details can feel a little bit wonky right now, can feel a little bit vague. We may not have all the details or all the answers, but they are coming, and they're slowly going to start coming in following this new moon over the next few weeks and over the next, month or so. We're going to be integrating all of the details and the higher perspective, right? And so I think that this new moon is really the start of something beautiful for Leo risings. It's kind of like the start of many changes that are going to start happening, the start of this journey that we're going to be going on inward to find the self again, to find the spark again, to find the light again in some way, shape, or form, to find ourselves again, right? To really return way more whole, way more full, way more fulfilled from the inside out, right? Because that's the whole lesson of a Leo rising, is to really find the light within. Then you reflect it without, and then you don't need to worry about attention or validation or any of that, because you know you are light. You are aligned with your being. You're here to uncover who you are. You're here as a journey of self. You're here to uncover the real, true self. And your life is always going to take you back to the self, back to identity, back to authenticity, back to being the light, even in a dark room. And sometimes the darkness pushes us, right? So much so to where we have no choice but to turn on that light within. And that's when we see it, right? And so if you're hung up about all the details and how it's all going to happen, like I've been saying this in some of the other horoscopes, it's one step at a time. It's like the staircase analogy, right? You can see the top of the staircase, but the staircase, all the steps look overwhelming because it's so many steps. If we could see all of the steps, we would be even more overwhelmed and even more confused, right? But it's like, okay, break it down one step at a time. What still needs to be worked through? What still needs to be sorted out? What still needs to be let go of? What still needs to be forgiven, right? What karmic debts do we need to clean up or release or forgive, etc., right, in order for us to move forward? And that's so much what this new moon is about. So let me know down below, you guys, my fellow Leo risings, if this resonated for you, if I said anything that really touched something for you. I would really love to hear your feedback. And if you missed the first part of this video, definitely go back and watch it. It was really powerful, and I think you're going to get a lot out of that too. It's really powerful. I think it's going to resonate on other levels for you, so definitely go check that out, and I will see you guys in the next one. Alrighty, Virgo, welcome to your Sagittarius New Moon horoscope for the first couple weeks of December. I hope you guys are doing fabulous. Okay, so this new moon in Sagittarius is happening for you in your 4th house sector. Now, this is a very private, personal, kind of secluded, and even sometimes secretive part of your chart, right? This is the lowest part of the chart. So it's basically like in the ground, like the foundation of your chart, so to say, right? And so it deals with a lot of personal, family, and home matters. Like this is your living situation, your home, your family life, what kind of home you have, where you're comfortable, right? Your private life. Sometimes even your past and your family dynamics, or your parents, or the environment of your home life. So all of those topics could be coming up around this new moon, and you could have already been noticing them off and on as we've had Sagittarius transits for like the last month or so. And we also have Mercury retrograding here as well. So there's a lot of things from the past that you're reflecting on, and you could feel a little bit more private, a little bit more introverted around this time as you're really looking at and reflecting on the past, your roots, your family, your ancestry, where you come from, right? Your parents, and maybe letting some things go that have been burdening you from the past and gaining a new perspective on them with this Mercury retrograde and new moon in Sagittarius. And especially over the next couple weeks, that could evolve, right? So this is a time where you are seeing the higher wisdom or the higher perspective or the lessons behind certain things, why things have panned out the way they have, why your past is your past, why your childhood was your childhood. You know, you could be feeling very nostalgic, having a lot of memories returning around this time. There could be a lot going on from your past or from your ancestry, from your roots, from your childhood, kind of triggering certain subconscious lessons as well, with Mars in a positive aspect with this new moon, that help you see your worth and help you see that you're special and help you see your own unique individuality and your own unique, worth and value that you provide here on this planet, right? So some of that could be coming up as well. Now, on a more like mundane, normie kind of level, this could just be some new beginnings happening in your home and family life, or some new energy kind of being planted here, while also kind of reflecting on things from the past. Like maybe you're rearranging your home, or maybe you are considering moving, or maybe you're doing some kind of home project or renovating or something like that, right? So those are some other things that you could definitely see coming up around this time. Now, The other big thing happening here is Jupiter, which rules this new moon and this Mercury retrograde, is in your 10th house, opposing this Mercury retrograde, and it's coming into its full opposition in the week ahead after this new moon. So some of these things are going to be playing out over the next couple weeks. So make sure to watch out or come back and revisit this horoscope in a couple weeks. But basically, there's a lot going on with the details and the data and the evidence and the facts versus the belief and the faith and the higher perspective and the higher wisdom, right? And so you could find that you need certain understanding or certain evidence of a path that you're on, or a vision for your future or your career, your reputation, right? With Jupiter in your 10th, it's really bringing up this, understanding or this journey of understanding in terms of your career and your path in life. But it is opposing Mercury retrograde in your 4th house. So there could be this push and pull between where you feel comfortable and where you feel safe and your private life and your personal life or your home and your family versus your public life and your public image and what you want people to know about you and, your career. Things like that, right? So some of those dynamics you could be seeing come up around this time too. Now, the other thing is we have Saturn in your 7th house of relationships squaring this new moon. And this has been part of kind of this ongoing theme that we've had over like the last month or so of Saturn squaring these Sagittarius transits that we've had, where a lot of the things going on in your personal life or the things coming up from your past or the things going on with your home and family are somehow in some kind of challenge, or there's some kind of obstacle, something along those lines with something to do with your relationships or a certain relationship in your life. Certain relationship lessons are involved in some of these private, home, personal, family, past matters that have been kind of coming up. Somehow it correlates with your relationships or with your significant other in some way. Maybe it's felt like, you are trying to change your perspective or trying to heal some of these things to do with your roots, with your childhood, with your home and family life, and how they have impacted your relationships, let's say, or how they connect to your current relationship or your past relationships, right? Patterns within your relationships and within your childhood or within your home and family life and how that all connects, right? These different dynamics, patterns with your parents and how that's impacted your relationships, right? All of these types of things could definitely be coming up around this time. And since these are all mutable signs, these are all aspecting you as well. So your rising sign or any planets that you have in your 1st house. So really all of this is showing you how these things have impacted you, how these things have impacted your subconscious, how these things from the past have created who you are today and created these lessons or patterns in your life, in your relationships, in your career. So this is definitely a really big time if you are a Virgo rising, because all of these mutable transits are aspecting your sign as well, your 1st house, your ascendant, and any 1st house placements that you have, really kind of leading back to you, leading back to, your own identity, your own personality, your body, your appearance, your, yourself and how you view yourself, right? And so a lot of these things that you could be uncovering from your past or to do with your home, your family, your relationships, your career are all connecting back to you in some way. And so as you are revisiting these things and you're noticing the pattern, or you're seeing new perspectives, or you're seeing a higher perspective, or you're running into old lessons or certain karmas or even soul contracts, right? It's like this is all leading back to self in some way, and all really helping you understand more about yourself. So let me know down below, Virgo, what you are noticing, if any of that hit the nail on its head for you. Also with that Mercury retrograde, just on a more basic level, there could be certain like little things going wrong at home, or miscommunications with family, or things like that, details that are kind of missed or something along those lines. It's very typical Mercury retrograde in the 4th house. It can be a little bit frustrating, or there can be frustrating things going wrong in the home or family life in some way. So anyways, but if you missed the first part of this video, definitely go back and watch it, because it was really, really powerful. And I think you'll relate to a lot of the things in the first part of this video. I would really, really love to hear how this is all affecting you down below. So make sure you comment, and I will see you guys in the next one. next one. What's up, Libra, and welcome to your Sagittarius New Moon horoscope. So for you as a Libra rising, this new moon is going to be in your third house, which is a very random house in astrology. It kind of deals with like a mix of things. But some of the things that the third house deals with and some of the topics that you could be visiting around this time or could have already been visiting the last several weeks, as we've had a lot of different things moving through this area of your chart, are communication, siblings, relatives, friends, neighborhood, your community, your local environment, like where you live locally, learning new things, and the things that you kind of do in a routine or a day-to-day basis, or the places that you frequent, right? So the things that are basically around you, the third house can deal with kind of like movement or short travels, you know, things like that, who you socialize with on a day-to-day basis and your day-to-day interactions, right? The things that you do on a day-to-day level. So that is basically, those are basically some of the topics that you could see coming up around this time. Now, this new moon in Sagittarius, you know, is also pretty much almost conjunct Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. So you already have a Mercury retrograde happening in this area where you are kind of going back and revisiting. And so that could look like a lot of communication themes, right? And potentially some miscommunication themes with Mercury being retrograde. Details kind of being looked over or not all the way sorted out, or not really having all the facts or the evidence or the data that you wish you had to understand a problem or to deal with a situation, right? I find here that a lot of times transits through the third house will lead me to either old places that I've been or that I haven't been in a while, like revisiting certain areas or certain places, like an old park I haven't been to in a while, or, revisiting my childhood home and driving by it or something, you know, like things like that, right? And sometimes it's also just like finding new places, like new hangout spots or new places that you start frequenting a little bit more often than you usually did before, right? Finding new places around you that you weren't even aware of, right? It's kind of like really uncovering and being aware of the day-to-day things in your reality and the environment around you more, right? And so this new moon here speaks of a new spark starting here, kind of like a new beginning, a new seed that's being planted here. So you could find that you have a lot of ideas. You could be working on a lot of projects around this time, or doing a lot of things with communication, writing, speaking, social media, content, you know, all things like that could really come up here with the third house. But what I find really interesting here is that Jupiter, the ruler of your third house and the ruler of this new moon, is opposite of, in the opposite sign of Gemini in your ninth house. So what it looks like to me is that you're also really evolving and learning in a lot of different new ways. And you're bringing those things that you're learning and the progress that you're making, learning new things and changing your outlooks on life, and maybe changing some of your philosophies or ideologies. And you're bringing them down to earth on a more like local level, if that makes sense. So you could be learning like a new subject that's kind of broad, but you're not just learning it. Maybe you are bringing it into practice, into your day-to-day life, for instance, right? Like you're actually bringing it down to earth and making it a part of your day-to-day ceremonies, your day-to-day routines, right? That kind of thing. So that could be definitely something you're noticing around this time, or at least over the next couple of weeks, because sometimes this energy can take a few weeks to play out. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, the other thing here is that you could be finding yourself a little bit more busier than usual. Like the third house, again, deals with like our little routines, errands that we have to run, things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis that are somehow around where we live or in our local environment. So you could find yourself feeling very busy, doing a lot of like Christmas shopping or doing a lot of planning for something, etc. Now, also, Mars is really in a beautiful trine with this new moon, and Mars is in your 11th house of your social life, groups of people, your network, your acquaintances, different groups of people that you have certain things in common with, or that you share certain passions with or certain goals with, or maybe even career contacts or professional contacts, you know, things like this. So it also looks like you're going to have a very social time the next couple weeks, like maybe attending a lot of gatherings, a lot of social gatherings, a lot of events, a lot of parties, and that makes sense with the holidays being around the corner. You could be spending a lot of more time with relatives, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, neighbors, or community, you know. So that's also potentially how this could be playing out for you. Now, the other part of this new moon is that Saturn in Pisces in your 6th house is squaring this new moon in your 3rd house. So that could be bringing up some vagueness, some mystery, some eeriness, or some things like kind of out of your control to do with your work life and to do with your day-to-day maintenance or physical health in some way. You could be feeling like there's some limitations or some things that are kind of beyond you or beyond your control. This Saturn squaring this new moon is like, I don't have all the details yet, or I have this eerie fear or this eerie sense of like vagueness where I have these certain ideas, or I have these certain new things I want to begin, or this new path I want to embark on, or this spark to do something with some of these realizations or ideas that I'm having, but it's like, how does that look, right? Like, where is that going to lead to? Or I don't have all the details just yet, or I don't have all the answers just yet, or there's certain delays or setbacks or obstacles going on at work that are kind of bringing me, that are kind of like, altering my path in a way that, can feel a little bit annoying or frustrating or whatever, right? And so some of that could be going on as well. And again, like one of the biggest things for this Sag New Moon, and if you didn't watch the first half of this video, definitely do that because you're really going to relate to it. But one of the biggest things I keep saying is that the Sag New Moon is really, really representative of the whole staircase metaphor, where we have this vision for our destination, right? Like we can see at the top of the staircase, we can see the destination, but then we see all the stairs we have to take to get there, all the steps we have to take, and it can feel overwhelming, right? Or we may not even see all the steps just yet because there's so many, right? And we may feel like we need to see every single step to get it, right? To get there. But it's like, no, just focus on one step at a time, right? And this is really you between this 3rd and 9th house energy. This is really you learning to integrate both, to focus on the bigger picture and the bigger worldly ideas and outlook and all of that you're interested in right now, but also to bring it down to earth as well and bring it into your day-to-day life, right? Your here and now, right? It's kind of like integrating where you're going with the present, right? And learning to kind of bring the two together, right? And surrender what you can't control. Saturn and Pisces in your 6th, right? Letting go of what you can't control and leaving it up to whatever you believe in, right? Because what's the use of hanging on to it? What's the use of being burdened by it when you can't control it anyway, right? And that's so much of the lessons of this new moon in Sag in this time right now. So let me know down below, Libra, if that resonated, if any of that touched something for you. I would really, really love to hear your feedback. And also, if you missed the beginning, like I said, definitely go back and watch it because you're definitely going to relate. Alrighty, Scorpio risings, last but not least, welcome to your Sagittarius New Moon horoscope for the first couple weeks of December. Hope you guys are doing well. So this new moon for you is in your 2nd house, and your 2nd house is all about your resources, your possessions, your assets, money, how you interact with the material world, your material resources, what you want or what you need. The 2nd house is really about the things that are close to you, that you keep close to you, the attachments that you have, the things that support you, right? To basically be a soul here on earth, right? So food, shelter, what you spend your money on, what you value, right? What provides for you, how you provide for yourself, things like that, right? So anyway, with this new moon being here, you definitely are probably going to notice topics related to your possessions and your material resources coming up around this time, right? There's this sense of resourcefulness that's really kind of a theme here coming up for you. And plus, Mercury is retrograde here in your 2nd house. So you're also kind of going back out and cleaning out the closet, so to say, right? So you're kind of going back and maybe getting rid of old things or changing, things in terms of your resources, your finances, what you value, what you own. Mercury retrograde in the 2nd house can definitely be a time where we're really reflecting on our assets, our resources, and the things that we own and what we want to get rid of, or the things that we can maybe change, maybe selling things, stuff like that, right? So anyway, this new moon is trining Mars and Leo in your 10th house. And so this is bringing some really positive energy from your career, right? And your resources. So it's really connecting these two areas of life for you, right? Like, how can you add more value or create more value from your career, from your profession, from your, public image, from your path, right? all of those types of things. So that's really a nice little aspect that we have here with this new moon. Now, the other part of this new moon is Jupiter in your 8th house of Gemini, opposing Mercury retrograde in your 2nd house of Sagittarius, and that's going to perfect later in the week. So some of these things could definitely be playing out for a few more weeks for you, but this is really bringing in the integration and certain realizations between what's yours and what's others, right? So what you're owed and what belongs to you, and what others are owed and what belongs to others, right? The 2nd and the 8th house are opposite of each other because the 2nd house is like your own resources, your own individual things that you own, your own individual possessions, and the 8th house is other people's possessions and what you share with other people, right? If you're married, right? Like what you and your spouse have in each other's names, right? Debts that you owe to other people or debts owed to you, right? Inheritance, because that's basically giving money, right? Passing money down. Investments, right? Things like this, right? So these are also topics that you could really be seeing come up, or that you could start seeing come up over the next couple weeks if you haven't already. You're really sorting out what is meaningful and purposeful for you, what actually adds meaning and purpose to your life, what actually helps you and motivates you in terms of your resources, versus what is logical, what is evidence-based, what is rational, right? With Jupiter and Gemini, right? Gemini is very logical, rational, facts, data, information, research, whereas Sagittarius is very much like experience-based, right? Belief in something bigger, seeing the higher perspective, having the wisdom from lived experience, right? And so these two polarities you could really see coming up, and you could really be noticing between not only yourself, but maybe other people. It could also bring up topics of, business, investments, investors, your partner's finances, things like that if you're in a relationship. Okay, so the other part of this is Saturn is in Pisces in your 5th house of matters of the heart, romance, children, creative hobbies, entertainment, etc. And it is squaring this new moon. So this new moon is really kind of planting this seed, this like new beginning that you are really wanting to start in terms of your finances, in terms of your resources and your financial matters, right? And plus, you've been going back and revisiting and reflecting on this area with Mercury retrograde anyway, right? But with this square to Saturn, there could be some things that are kind of still unknown, or some limits or delays, or something along those lines to do with children, or matters of the heart, or things that you want on like a heart level, right? Like things like the creative projects or creative hobbies. And so somehow this could be kind of in some kind of challenge with the resources, or this resourceful beginning, this resourceful new beginning that you're wanting to kind of embark on. So something else that you could really be noticing with this new moon and this Mercury retrograde in your 2nd house is really kind of shifting or changing your ideologies around resources, money, finances, maybe looking into learning, new things, or going back to potentially things that maybe you had started to learn about in the past, and now it's like that's like coming back up, right? That's like sparking interest again, right? So it's really about your thinking and your ideologies and your experiences around resources, money. That's what a lot of these lessons are kind of coming in, what a lot of them have to do with, right? So resources, money, business, investments, other people's money that you share, money that you owe, money that you have, like all of that, right? So another way that this could really be playing out is there could be some correction of a debt from the past in some way, whether owed to you or owed to someone else, like with Mercury retrograde here, and then it eventually opposing Jupiter, which Jupiter is usually a positive planet, and both of them being in mutual reception. This could be like kind of like correcting something. It may not be like the most favorite outcome that you could ask for, but it could still be somewhat positive, or it could at least balance things back out, right? Or equal it back out in some way. So that's something else that you could really see coming up, especially in like the week or so ahead after this new moon. So yeah, this is really like asking yourself, like, what drives me in terms of my resources? What is the bigger picture for my my financial matters? Like, where do I want to be? And how do I start taking steps to getting there? And what needs to be let go of or reflected on? Or what decisions have I been putting off, you know, to do with these things? And what's in my control, what's out of my control? You know, all of these things are really coming up around this time for you as a Scorpio rising, to do with finances, resources, money, etc. So let me know down below, Scorpio risings, if any of that hit the nail on its head for you. If you feel like you've been seeing these things coming up and what you have been seeing come up, let me know, like, you know, stories of how this relates, or your own stories of, you know, what's been going on. And if you missed the first half of this video, definitely go back and watch it. It's super, super powerful. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.